Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Khorasan, the Caliph, and the Corruptor. In the last episode, we were discussing sacred physiology as it relates to Dhul Qarnayn and an unfolding of insight that came from this. So in connection to that, we were discussing the possibility of viewing the Dhul Qarnayn of the body as being the femur bones and in the sternum and collarbones, that we have the symbolism and the relationship. And we were discussing the possibility of, so since we've got the white blood cells, the red blood cells making tawaf in and through the four chambers of the heart, the Kaaba of our body, and then the relationship of the immune system with the femur bones. So it's interesting that perhaps Dhul Qarnayn, there's an immune response within the body that builds a wall against some kind of a bacterial invasion, or perhaps even nanotechnology or a combination thereof, some kind of toxic poisons that we would call yuj and majuj. So because we're seeking ways to not only survive the onslaught of what we're dealing with, but to thrive and to come out on the other side near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is none other than truth most high, wise and compassionate guide. So let's talk a little bit more about these things. So we've got an immune response. So and we were discussing the black stone as perhaps being in the glands that are right at the sternum. So for instance, in body tapping, in order to stimulate an immune response within the body, we tap all over the body, but in particular the sternum is recommended to tap on because it awakens an immune response within the body. So this is like touching the black stone of the body. And even if you look at the pictures of it and look at what the black stone looks like currently, which has several stones and then they're all kind of glued together in a conglomeration, then put within a silver frame at the Kaaba currently. So there's symbolism there that's quite interesting. Also, the station of Ibrahim. If you look at the station of Ibrahim at the photos and you look at it from above, it resembles a vertebrae from above, with the two feet where Ibrahim alayhi salam is said to have stood when he was building the Kaaba with his son Ismail alayhi salam. So he's building it, and it was said to have, grown bigger or smaller, almost like an ascending step ladder. And that's actually what the spinal cord is like, symbolically. So it looks like, when you look at some of the vertebrae from above, they actually resemble 2 feet inside. So there'll be a disc, and then the 2 feet in it. So it's very interesting, this symbolism, that Allah has planted this brilliant symbolism within our very bodies. And it's something to think about, and there's something to do with an immune response. Now let's continue on. With this line of thinking, let's think about a hadith related to the Caliph to come, alayhi salam, the Imam. When he arises, when he comes out of his long dark night of the soul, and he has his night of rectification, an enlightenment experience where it goes from a gradual enlightenment experience to a sudden enlightenment experience. We have this interesting body symbolism. Now let's think about the scene where Isa alayhi salam descends at the white minaret. Now this is problematic historically because we know that these hadith appear, there are a great number of our hadith appear from the Umayyad era, around Damascus and refer to Damascus a lot. And sometimes we'll see Damascus mentioned, sometimes Sham in general, or the Damascus vicinity could be included by extension, because sometimes a capital city will represent the land or the region. So we've got this Sham concept. So also, by the way, the station of Ibrahim, I mentioned the possibility of a vertebrae. Now we're thinking with these materials. We're not saying this is absolutely true or the final answer. That all, Allahu Alam on these things. But just consider that it may be, the station of Ibrahim has many different ways we could look at it, but it may be a specific vertebrae located within the heart region, directly behind the heart. So that's something to consider. whenever we're reading things, we should read and look for, we're reading about people, we look for qualities, traits, characteristics. We look for the actions, what something or someone does, in order to better understand and derive meaning therefrom. So the white menorah, there was no white menorah. This is very late. There was no minaret of Isa alayhi salam until very, very late. Maybe less than 1,000 years ago. So this is something very fresh. It wouldn't have been in the Hadith. So you could argue, okay, our Nabi, he saw that this place would be built. But this to me is an example of a place that's back engineered, where they take a prophecy and then they try to create something to match that. However, Allah hides truths wherever He will for those whom He chooses to see. So the white menorah, when I think about it, what is a menorah? A menorah is a candlestick. A candlestick. So the white menorah, because I was thinking about it, how if it's not the Umayyi Mosque in Damascus, which is connected to John the Baptist's head, so we've got a head connection here. So I was thinking that it would be in the Sham region, and it might be maybe a cliff, or someplace that somebody might call to prayer, located. It might be a physical place located in the Sham region. Now I was thinking in terms of physiology again. The white menorah is clearly, that's the spinal cord. The spinal cord is the white menorah within this framework. And it's even got the light within the brain, which is a dome. So we've got the dome and we've got the menorah. So we've got masjid physiology. We've got like a physiologic, we are the place of prostration. We are walking masajid. We prostrate on clay. We're made of clay. We're made of sacred clay. There is no place on this earth more sacred than the human body. Guaranteed. We are children of Adam alayhi salam. We're going to discuss that further in some other episodes, inshallah. But just consider that we've got this instance. In another episode, we'll discuss that Isa, his descent, he's coming so. There's the Isa of our being, the Isa of our body, that we go through. We cultivate practices that put us in certain states, and we are granted maqam or stations, and then we go into, and then Allah gifts us with certain states, ahwal or hal. So maqam, maqamat and ahwal. And anyway, so the station of Ibrahim, we can think about we think about the stories of Ibrahim. We have to condense them down to the themes of his story and major events in order to better understand how that applies to us. So the Isa of our being, it says that he descends at the white menorah. So somewhere in the skull, there's this, and so that means that the imam of our being we have to be rectified personally. And so I would argue that there's a physiological reading of what taking bayah means. It's related to the right hands, to cultivating qualities of forgiveness, compassion, wisdom. I would also argue that the Isa, he's the anointed one. And so we could look at him as the immune response of the collective. To kill one human is as if we killed all of humanity, per Quran. Or to save one human is as if we saved all of humanity. So Isa, he represents humanity. He's the second Adam, man. So he's the second Adam, the second man. He is humanity. And symbolically, you have Isa within yourself. All the prophets are within your very being. And we offer them salams all the time, and we cultivate certain stations. And as we do this, Allah gifts us with the states that we need. So the Isa of our being I would argue, is related to a spiritual immune response and a physical immune response. Remember that he is able to eliminate the Dajjal. I'll discuss that in another episode, inshallah, which is very interesting because we have jab symbolism, and the Dajjal gets immunized. And, I owe you one strike. I owe you one stab. I owe you one jab. So this is a very interesting way of thinking about Isa. And then later he prays, and Yuj and Majuj is destroyed by Allah, through the power of Isa's prayer, his dua, as he prays. And then there's some kind of a worm that gnaws away at the necks of Yuj and Majuj, and then they die as one body. Boom! Fall to the earth, gone. And then the beasts of the earth are fattened off of them. So that could be the immune response and our bodies actually cleaning out all this garbage out of our systems. There could be something triggered through our Tawbah and Tazkiyah process. So this is going to, I'm still contemplating and meditating on these and asking for insight. And inshallah, I will share these things with you when it is time. This is a beautiful path. This is such a magnificent, beautiful path that Allah has granted us. I pray that you're appreciating it. Appreciate this path. Don't limit ourselves. Do not limit Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't try to fit him in a box. This is an impossible task and it's wrong-headed and wrong-hearted. So therefore, do not limit Allah's magnificent creation. And you as a child of Adam are meant for so much. We have tremendous potential. And these other ways of reading the Quran will open up our thinking, will rewire our synaptic pathways, and expand our hearts and our minds, inshallah. So until next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.